Hello, everyone. My name is Corey, and this is my first time ever going live on YouTube or any sort of live stream. So I'm quite excited. I decided to start this new series and of art talk, and I thought it might be fun to do it live, just another way to interact with my audience. Before I get into today's topic, which is about stereotypes that artists may face, I wanted to just introduce myself, give a little bit of background, and and then I'll jump into it. So, my name is Corey Frank. I have loved art my entire life. I studied it as an undergraduate, but most of my career has been in the library field. I was a librarian for 7 years. But in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was placed on unpaid furlough. And I decided, well, I don't want to just sit around and do nothing. So I started a YouTube channel, as I'm sure many other people did at the same time. That was just something to do. So I started creating art videos and tutorials, posting them somewhat frequently. I'm not sure I don't think it was every week when I first started out, but I was posting videos and tutorials. And then I was thankfully called back to work, which I was super grateful for. And because of that, just the amount of time I did not have the time or kind of mental capacity to be able to continue creating videos for the rest of 2020. But resolved in 2021 to continue forward. I set a goal to post one video every week, which I did meet that goal. And as I did that work, I started to realize has been my lifelong passion. This is my calling. I'm meant to be an artist. And so I started making plans to be able to step into that full time. And I did that on June 2nd of last year, 2022. And it's been a very exciting journey ever since. So I now post 3 videos every week on my channel. And my channel is Corey Frank Creates. I also have a business of the same name, Corey Frank Creates, LLC. I have a website, CoreyFrankCreates.com. But I'm always trying to create free content here on YouTube just to inspire you, to help you. I have some longer videos that I'll do that are some time-lapse tutorials, but I also do really short videos, generally a couple times a week, just for kind of a little bit of a short brain break. So I'd love if you go check the rest of those videos out on my channel. But now, as far as this series goes, I've done a couple of art talk videos before that I've recorded and then posted, but this is my first time doing a live session. So I'm excited to talk about some things that relate to art, being an artist. And the great thing about being an artist is that there's a lot of experiences and things that could apply to many different fields. And that's really the case with anything. We can all find some sort of connection with each other. And that's kind of just a little bit of what I'm going to get into today. So, this session is my first. I am planning on doing it each Friday throughout the month of January at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So this is my first one. There will definitely be 3 more because I plan on doing it this whole month of January. And I'll just see how it goes. And if it gains traction and if it's a style that I like, I will continue forward with it. So I'll share those details again at the end of this live stream. But in the meantime, I want to jump into this topic, stereotypes that artists may face. So there are many, I imagine, that if you are an artist, you have encountered, or that if you're not an artist, that maybe you've heard of, or that you think are true, or that kind of thing. I'm going to highlight 3 today, ones that I have definitely encountered the most. And then I'd love to hear your thoughts if you have any others that maybe you have experienced as well. So the first one is that artists are flighty, disorganized, and not very reliable. Now, I think that is a trait that can just be a people trait in general. We can all, and it can be for any person at any given time. So I know I have certain things that I will kind of let fall off my plate, and that's just how it is. And I think that's the case for every person on this planet. But the reason why I think that might be ascribed particularly to artists is because when we are creating artwork or when we're really in a creative flow, it's kind of like, at least for me, other things just kind of disappear. And like you almost lose time. You may work for hours and then all of a sudden look up and realize, wow, I've been working for hours. It only feels like 10 minutes. And so maybe that kind of energy or way that when creative artists are kind of focused on that, it can come across that, oh, they're flighty, or they're not like entirely present, or they're kind of disorganized. But I've actually encountered many artists who are very organized. Me myself, especially having worked as a librarian, I am a neat freak. I love to have things organized and in their place. And that's me, but I've met many other artists who are the same way. They're kind of very methodical with their approach. You think about the art process itself, it can be very methodical. Like, think about anything like an oil painting, a watercolor painting, a sculpture, a wood carving, anything like that. Even, from ancient times all the way to current, calligraphy artists, they spend hours planning their craft, practicing, honing their craft, and it can take a lot of kind of an organized approach to how you're going to complete a piece. And so that alone, I think, kind of indicates that artists maybe aren't as disorganized as some people may think. And then as far as the unreliable, goes back to that same kind of thing. If someone's like really in the creative flow, they might not get back to you right away with communication. But that's the same with any of us. Like, I definitely have certain emails that come into my inbox, they drop to the bottom, I forget about them, and then weeks later someone else follows up with me and I go, oh goodness, sorry about that. While that certainly may be true of many artists, again, I know many artists, especially in college, I encountered many artists who they were reliable. And in the library world, oftentimes, we put on free programs at the library when I worked there. And I would reach out a lot of the time to artists and creative folks to hire them and see if they were interested in putting on a workshop at the library. And so many of them were very prompt in their responses. There was one gal in particular who was just on top of every single thing. She thought of all the details. She thought of all the supplies that would be needed. She was checking in regularly. So that, again, I think it goes back to personality. There are people in any field, whether it be art, engineering, anything, that can be a little disorganized, maybe not always reliable with responding to things right away and other stuff like that. But that's not a trait that is just artists only. So I'm hoping, like, kind of presenting that, if you believe that stereotype, may kind of switch your perspective a little bit, or if you are an artist and you've encountered that stereotype, to just help build your confidence that, yeah, if someone may call me that, it doesn't mean it's true. And also think about the source of who's telling you that. A lot of time in college, when someone would kind of meet me and I'd say I was studying art, or I say I'm an artist, and you can kind of tell they automatically have that little switch in their brain going on, like, oh, you're that kind of person. It's, who you are, and just be confident in yourself, and know that if someone believes a stereotype, it's not going to be true about you. And hey, maybe if it does have a little bit of truth to it, because we all know that stereotypes are based in a little bit of truth, just be confident in yourself and go, yeah, that's just how I am. Or if you're like, yeah, that's something that I'm working on, and that's okay. So that was the first stereotype, that kind of that unreliability and being flighty as an artist. The second big one that I've encountered, especially in college, was artists are not good at math and science. Like, they can't do it. Math and science, you're an artist? Nope, math and science are not your thing. Which is actually, I'm just going to come out and say, it's very untrue, because that you could say that about anybody in any field, except someone who is in a math or science field. Hopefully they're good at math and science. If they're not, then I highly question why they are in that career path. But a lot of people don't realize that art actually can involve quite a bit of mathematical concepts, and kind of mathematical thinking. Now, it's not, necessarily pure numbers and 2 + 2 = 4 and all of this, But for me personally, as I do realism, so I want my proportions in my paintings to be very accurate. So what does that involve? It involves being able to scale up from an initial image size or object size and scale down. Well, if you're going to scale up and down, that very much involves ratio, which is a mathematical thing. Um, and again, some of it is more just kind of the mental process. Like color theory isn't strictly numbers and mathematical, but there is a sort of symmetry to it of opposites of color and what colors go well together. So there's a lot of reasoning and principle behind it that, if you're not an artist, you may not realize that artists are very carefully considering what colors to use to evoke a certain emotion in the viewer when they finish their painting. Certain colors artists know, like when they're right next to each other, they can be very visually strong and kind of clash against each other and create this visual tension. And that a lot of the time, most of the time, is very, very deliberate on the artist's part. So they are thinking, from a psychological perspective, from a mathematical perspective, yes, even from maybe a scientific perspective, if they're drawing people and being very anatomically correct. So there are plenty of artists out there that I know that are very good at math and science. And in fact, a lot of artists are have a lot of areas of interest. And this can sometimes get us into trouble because if you love to do many things, science, math, art, singing, all kinds of stuff, it can be very challenging to focus in on, okay, what am I actually going to do? So I know many people. I have a very, very dear friend who is an engineer and so smart in that field, and she knows exactly what she's doing, but also loves to sing and is so musically minded as well, which, music is another type of art. It's a performing art. So again, I want to challenge, if you do think like, yeah, if you're an artist, you're not good at math and science, maybe just kind of step back and rethink that and think about, okay, do I know any artists? What are they good at? And sure, there are definitely artists out there where like, yeah, math and science, not my thing. And that's okay. We all have our gifting. And that's the whole point. Like each of us is a unique person. And just because we may be really good at one thing and not necessarily good at other things, there doesn't need to be a judgmental statement about it. One final point I will make about this is that when you think about kind of artists of the past, they a lot of the time, again, were not just artists, they were inventors, they were scientists, they were curious and studying things and trying to figure out how the world worked. So it's very much a long time principle that artists have been these people that are not just painting and drawing, but they're kind of discovering the world around them. That changed a lot with the Industrial Revolution. There became a shift in focus to all of the sort of more math and sciences and this need for kind of a labor force, which is so important. It still is. Technology is always evolving, and it's so important to kind of have people in those fields who know what they're doing and enjoy doing that. But it's also crucial to not discount art and creative folks, because art is part of the human experience. I mean, we have had it throughout all history. You think about how ancient the cave paintings are. And at that time, people didn't need to be painting to survive, but they did. And it told their stories. So yeah, that second stereotype about not being good at math and science, not always true for sure. Then the final stereotype I wanted to talk about is the idea of the starving artist. That sort of trope. And especially since I have stepped into being an artist full time, I have encountered that. In fact, there's a very dear family member of mine who we even joke sometimes of like, oh, gotta feed the starving artist. So, I'm at a point where I can just laugh about it and find it kind of funny and cute. But I do think it's important to address the fact that, there are, I think probably the most famous artist we can identify who never sold a painting while he was alive is Van Gogh. And, what a tragedy, because he was a genius and created just a prolific body of work, but sadly never sold a piece while he was alive. So I think that maybe where the main, one of the main kind of thoughts of this stereotype came from. And of course, that's the same with any creative pursuit. There are so many creative people out there. Not everyone makes it big. So again, that stereotype of like, oh, the starving artist, they're on the street. Oh, they just need pencil and paper to sustain them. So I do want to kind of push against that stereotype a little bit. I actually think it's one of the best times for people to be stepping into a creative field because they are. Oh, I'm just now seeing that I'm just now seeing that there's comments. Yay! Oh my gosh, hello. Can you say Leonardo da Vinci? Leonardo da Vinci. There you go. There's one of them. He was a inventor going back. Anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked. Thank you guys for joining me. I love seeing your comments that I just now noticed. So yes, pushing back against that stereotype that all artists are starving and poor and they can't make any money. Hi, Thomas. Oh my gosh. I love you guys. Thank you. So I think that it's one of the best times to be in a creative career and working for yourself, even because of the technology of the time. We have so much opportunity and ways to connect with other people at a level that has never existed before. I mean, right here, the fact that I'm online able to share my thoughts with you and you guys are able to comment live like in real time is kind of mind-blowing and I love it. So I am going to talk about some like success stories. I have a couple YouTube artists that I just love and follow, and they create amazing work and they just inspire me so much. So one of them is Kirsty Partridge. She has like 1.34 million subscribers and is creating beautiful content and has a Patreon. And she is definitely earning six-figure income, if not more. So that is one success story. And another one is Marcello Berenghi, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He has 2.71 million subscribers on YouTube, which is, again, hard to wrap your mind around. And he creates these pieces that are more real than the actual object. Literally on the paper, it looks like you could just pick up the whatever object he painted or drew, and it looks so real and it's fantastic. And so these artists are having great success. They're like the really big success stories. Now, and there are people on a smaller scale, like personally, my mentor, who happens to be my aunt, owns her own business. She's very successful, and she is very flexible and has been able to adapt to her circumstances based on kind of what the field is doing, starting in graphic design, now shifting more into audio narration. So yeah, for me, those are three people who are demonstrate a success story. Now, of course, are there going to be certain people who want to be artists and don't always make it? Sure. I think a lot of that has to do with drive, motivation, and continuing on. Like, this is a hard journey. And sometimes, like, I know I personally have felt like, oh my gosh, should I even do this? Like, I mean, honestly, it is much easier to be in that typical 9-to-5 job. You've got, you're going to make your money in your 2 weeks, you're going to get your paycheck, and you've got a lot of the time, hopefully, insurance coverage. So going this independent path and being an artist full time is a challenging thing, but you can definitely make a living off of it. There are tons of artists out there who are living it out, are very successful, and they are not starving artists. So, but if you do happen to know one who is starving, give them a hand. Maybe buy them a coffee or a lunch or something like that. So, yes. So again, those three stereotypes, that artists are kind of flighty, disorganized, unreliable. And the second one, that because you're an artist, you're not good at math or science. And the final one, that artists are starving artists. If you're an artist or a creative person and you encounter this type of attitude, try not to let it phase you. I mean, again, consider the source. And if it does come from someone who cares about you and loves you, maybe just think about maybe why they're saying that. They could be coming from a place of concern, or they just don't realize like how much opportunity is in the art world or things like that. So just be patient with them. And also just be confident in yourself and know I know who I am and I know what I'm doing, and that's okay. I'm not going to let other people hold me back. So that's kind of the advice I would give about those stereotypes. And maybe when you can, challenge people who do, think about it in a very kind way. Be gentle about it. You know, if they say, yeah, artists aren't good at math or science, say, oh, yeah, how many artists do you know? Do you know if they're good at math or science? Just make them think a little bit. That's always a good way when someone makes that kind of like definitive statement. Maybe ask some questions, get them to think. So I am almost at my time. I said 15 to 20 minutes, and I want to try and stick to that. Before I leave, I did want to mention my website again, CoreyFrankCreates.com. I have, I was going to be like strategically taking a drink as I recorded this, which my voice is getting a little tired. So I will do that right now. And you can admire this fun elephant mug, which is available in my art shop. One of the ways I support myself in this full-time endeavor is by having products in my art shop, which is linked on my website. You can find it there. I have all kinds of things like this elephant mug to phone cases and all different kinds of art on there. So I would really, really love it if you go check it out. And join me next Friday. I would really, really appreciate that. Again, I will be doing this each Friday throughout this month of January 2023 at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The one final thing I did want to mention about my website is that I have a free email newsletter I send out every week. It is a great way to stay connected with me and to just find out what I'm doing. It links all my videos from the week. It shares some news. If I have any like special discounts or things like that happening, they are there as well. So I'd love if you go to my website, sign up for that newsletter. That would be a great way to stay in touch. Well, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic Friday, a great weekend. Until next time, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. God bless, and I'll see you soon.